You know, I've been searching all day and all night. I just can't find population genetics here. All I have found is confusion, frustration, and agony. So maybe we should actually figure out a way to turn population genetics into something that's like, I don't know, a little bit more manageable. You know what I'm saying? You know what I mean? All right, let's speed this up a little bit. Make it simple. On the right is the Hardy Weinberg equation for population genetics, where p squared equals the frequency of the homozygous dominant genotype. 2pq equals the frequency of the heterozygous genotype, and q squared will equal the frequency for the homozygous recessive genotype. Remember, one of these alleles come from your mama and one from your daddy. And these frequencies, this is the combination, the possible combinations from, heritability and all that good stuff. So this, right here from this equation, is the combo frequency. But I tell you this right now, this is the most important. Okay? To chase the recessive. Chase the recessive. It means look to this always. But I think right here, knowing that this is the frequency of these different combinations. So if I was to make an example, let's say, I don't know, let's say white sheep and black sheep. And we'll say that, that the capital W equals white sheep. And this is dominant. Jolly good. And we're going to say the lowercase w equals black sheep. Okay? Now those are our alleles. One is dominant and one is recessive. And so we could put, these are the different types of alleles of the entire gene pool, right? So this is the entire gene pool. We have a letter P representing the dominant allele, the frequency of the dominant allele. Of the allele. How about that? You like that? The allele. And then Q would equal the frequency of the recessive allele. The allele. This is another good thing. See, population genetics is difficult because math has found its way into bio, which, there's a place for it, but there's a reason why population genetics hurts feelings. It's because they've put math in here. So once again, I have categorized these two types of variables, if I can get the words out of my mouth. The entire gene pool, how many of the alleles are dominant, or the big capital W? And of the entire gene pool, how many are the recessive allele? In this case, black sheepedness. But this over here, this is the combination frequency. Okay? Now it's very important that you keep this in mind while we go through this problem. Magic. As you can see, I added the question. 6 black sheep and 594 white sheep in a field. That makes a grand total of 600 in our sample size. I want to know what is the frequency of each combination. So basically what I'm saying is I want to know what is p squared, what is 2pq, and what is q squared. The frequency of the homozygous dominant, the heterozygous, and the homozygous recessive. Okay? Now in order to get that, we need to remember our two major formulas down here. That includes P plus Q equals 1. What that means is that this P represents the frequency of how many dominant alleles there are, the capital letters, how many of these dominant alleles there are. And Q represents
how many of the W's in the entire sample size, in the entire gene pool, how many of what's the frequency of the dominant allele and what's the frequency of the recessive allele. Okay, now that we've got that under our belt, we can start actually doing this question. We got to understand. Now, what I said before is chase the recessive. The frequency of the homozygous recessive means we have 6 black sheep, right? So 6 black sheep out of a grand total of 600 sheep. We divide that and it gives us a decimal point. It gives us the answer 0.01. That represents the frequency of this specific combination. Okay? Homozygous recessive, 2 small w's. This represents our q squared. Okay? So over here, I'm going to write this, I'm going to keep it organized. Q squared equals 0.01. So we found one already. And that, my friends, is the key. When you find the frequency, because think of it logically, there's only one possible way that you could get this combination. It's if, or this phenotype. Black sheep, you have to have recessive, homozygous recessive combination. One from mom sheep, one from daddy-do sheep. So once you chase this, because the problem with finding this frequency first or this frequency is we don't know the proportions of how many recessive or how many heterozygous we have, the combination of dominant and recessive alleles together. We don't know how many the frequency of the homozygous dominant either. But once we get Q, it's all downhill because Q will equal the square root of Q squared. Hallelujah. Okay, check this out. So we need the square root of Q squared, which is 0.01, which, punching it into your brain calculator, 0.10. So this is another deal. Q equals 0.10. And now it's just dominoes. I can't draw, so I can't, whatever. Check this out. We know that P plus Q equals 1. Therefore, 1 minus Q equals P. So P equals, oh man, I know you're doing your own drum roll right now because this is getting for real. 1 minus 0.1 is 0.90. Holy goodness gracious me. So I know Q and I know P. So what do we do from here? Now the answer to that question is, remember, you've got to, this is what we're looking for. We already have Q squared. Now we're looking for 2PQ and P squared, or the frequency of the homozygous dominant and homozygous recessive. Now that we know P and Q, it's simple. Well, P squared will equal P 0.90 times 0.90, right? And that's totally easy. P squared equals 0.81. Record it here so we, get the whole question here. 0.81. Now we're looking for 2PQ. This is what I'm talking about by dominoes, right? The question starts to answer itself once you get P and Q. And it all started here. Okay, so what? 2 times 0.90 times 0. What the heck is it? Where is Q? 10. Okay, and you calculate that up, and guess what you get? 0.18. So 2PQ equals 0.18. And I'm getting so happy now because basically the question's done. I want to know what is the frequency of seeing heterozygotes, homozygous dominant, and homozygous recessive. Well, if we add these up, that's a way to check, right? Remember, 2PQ, or PQ plus 2PQ plus Q squared equals 1. If we add this all together, son of a gun, 18 plus 81 is 99 plus 1 is 99, so 0.0 or 1. Bingo. Know what I'm saying? Yao Ming? This is population genetics. Most questions can be answered if you get this first. I hope this really helped. If you want me to do any more questions, let me know.